Today on Locked On Red Wings, Detroit wins their third straight thanks to Mason Appleton stepping up to the plate.
You're Locked On Red Wings, your daily podcast on the Detroit Red Wings. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Red Wings podcast. We are your hosts, Brian Fisher and Scotty Bentley. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, and you can find us wherever you get your podcasts. Scotty, after an ugly start to the season with the home opener, Detroit has now won 3 straight games, 2 over Toronto and now 1 over the Florida Panthers, albeit a banged-up Florida Panthers, but still the Panthers nonetheless. And we're going to break down everything about this win over Florida in this one. Of course, we'll lead off with our difference makers, then moving to notable performers, and wrap up with stuff, which of course will be centered around the update on Lucas Raymond's status. But before we get to any of that, got to let you guys know today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. All right, Scotty, we knew going into this one it'd be a tough one. We broke it down on yesterday's episode. This is a team that through 4 of their games and 3 of your games, they kind of had the edge just barely in about every statistical category. Were significantly banged up, not having Tkachuk, Barkov, or Kulikov, but you also were missing your top producer in Lucas Raymond. Didn't stop Detroit from getting the 4-1 victory. Who do you have as your difference maker in this hockey game?
So, to be honest with you, I feel like I kind of have to go with special teams, because when you asked me in the preview yesterday what were the biggest X factors or whatever, that's the conclusion we came to there as well, right? Was that special teams going into this game, and again, it was a 4-game sample size, but Florida had yet to give up a penalty kill goal, they had to allow a goal on the penalty kill, and also had a top 5 power play in the NHL, again, albeit 4 games into the season. So I think for the Wings to score on the power play and break that 100% number that Florida's PK was at going into it, and have a perfect kill themselves with how talented that Florida team is, I think. I mean, in a game that, there's 2 empty netters, yeah. So this is a game that ultimately is you can look at more of a 1-goal difference, and right. I think that looking at both of those areas is kind of the easiest spot to find, where a goal could have gone either direction or could have gone the opposite way. So yeah, I think for this one, I am unbelievably impressed with both special teams units. I want to talk a little bit more about how the lineup card fell for the special teams units as well. We can either do that now, or we can save that for notable performers. That's what we call it. Yeah. Later in the show. But I was really impressed with everybody. I thought JVR stepped up and played power play 1 and was absolutely fantastic. Patrick Kane is obviously Patrick Kane, and him, and that's his strong suit. So obviously he was making stuff happen and scored a goal there. But I just thought ultimately that, and then maybe even more impressive was the fact that the Wings penalty kill went 100% themselves in this game. So yeah, for me, it's honestly, it's really easy, especially again, after we ended yesterday's show by talking about how that could be the difference maker in this game. I think there's an argument it ended up being the difference maker.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you for all the reasons that you just stated. When we were discussing the impact of Raymond's absence, we failed to talk about the power play unit, right?
Yeah,
we talked about who's going to fill in on line 1 at even strength, but power play unit 1, that's a huge gap to fill too. The placement of James Van Riemsdyk, as soon as I saw that in practice, I was like, oh, well, duh. I immediately was like, that's probably the best case scenario. JVR is the ideal net front presence on a power play because he's made his living redirecting pucks and banging home rebounds. He's made his career out of that. And he has not lost his touch in that regard. He almost tipped one home in this game. So I immediately was like, okay, power play unit 1 is going to be fine. They looked fine. And of course, as you put, they scored the second goal of the game on the power play on, albeit a 5-on-3. The Faceoff was won by Dylan Larkin, back decider who gave it to Kane, who just showed tons of patience, was kind of deceptive, right? He waited so long, it looked like for sure he was going to pass and ripped one short side over Bobrovsky's glove. Great goal by Patrick Kane to make it 2-0 at that time. And the Red Wings power play continues to buzz, kind of breaking the seal on the Florida Panthers. Perfect penalty kill was huge. And then, of course, as you've noted, very good power play that they have as well. Red Wings now 3 straight games without giving up a penalty kill goal. That is massive. Again, sample size is huge, but trending in the right direction is what I believe I said after the last game recap. It is trending in the right direction right now.
How many times did they go 3 consecutive games without giving up a PK?
Well,
all of last season, not very often, yeah.
If you want to whittle down this difference maker into like a specific moment too, killing off that Axel Sandin Pellikka penalty too, that was a very weak
for sure
interference call they called on him. He had the stick either lifted or slashed out of his hands, and it was a foot race for the puck, where the puck was right there, where they were both playing physical. It was not interference. They were fighting for control of the puck. That's not interference. Everybody says it was a weak call. That was a bad call in a 2-1 game in the third period. The Red Wings give up a goal there. The entire outlook of the game changes, and they're able to kill it off. And their penalty kills, it's not luck. Like, they're doing a great job of staying in the passing lanes and then blocking shots when they do decide to pull the trigger and then inevitably clearing the zone. They're playing it perfectly. So special teams is a huge one, because special teams was quite literally the difference in this. The power play goal by Kane ended up becoming the game winner. So, yeah, I agree with you on that one. Special teams is difference maker number 1. Difference maker number 2 is probably a lot more traditional and a lot more obvious in Mason Appleton scoring twice. Now, that second goal by Appleton, Scotty, was an empty net goal, but they count all the same. That was the goal that put away the game. So you could still say it held a lot of significance, because that put the game away for the Detroit Red Wings over the Florida Panthers. But he was asked, you talk about stuff we talked about yesterday, right? We said you're going to need depth players to step up big. You're going to need the entire team to step up big in Lucas Raymond's absence. And Mason Appleton, who I thought from the game the other day was, just a filler because they didn't want to mess up the lines because in that one game, well, Appleton up there again on the top line after I completely disregarded him as an option, goes out there and scores twice. And on the first goal, that was a really nice play by Dylan Larkin to just completely strip the puck and dummy Jeff Petrie. I actually kind of feel bad for Jeff Petrie a little bit, because I do have a soft spot for
he had a
Petrie
penalty in this
town.
game too, yeah.
And he took a penalty late in the third period that could have cost them even more. Thankfully, for the Panthers at least, the Red Wings did not capitalize on it. But Dylan Larkin, nice strip of Jeff Petrie. Appleton goes to the high slot and just rifles, doesn't even leave the ice. Just absolute piss missile straight into the back of the net.
Falling again.
Right. Again! He puts his entire body into it.
This dude, he's going to have 8 goals on the year, and they're all just going to be like crazy no look, like as he's falling to the ice, trick shots.
Did you see the screenshot of Appleton after the game winner against Toronto, where it's just Stolarz laying on the ice, and then you just see Appleton's legs straight up in the air with his butt facing Stolarz? Like, hockey, man, gotta love it.
The beautiful game.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
game.
no, it is quite fitting. After we talked so much yesterday about if Raymond's out, who could it be? Who's gonna fill in? And the guy that literally did fill in for Raymond and score a goal in the game in which he got hurt just simply goes back there and scores 2 more. Like that. Sometimes, keep it simple, stupid. Like sometimes it's just that easy. And, I don't expect Mason Appleton to, continue his 80 goal pace or whatever he's on right now, certainly. But I think they could certainly do a lot worse. And if there's some chemistry there and Larkin likes playing with him and he goes to the spots that Larkin wants him to be in, that's really all I'm asking for in the short amount of time, hopefully, that Raymond's out. So, tip of the cap to Mason Appleton. And I think, even in this instance, right, like, we're focused on who's going to fill that void when Raymond's out. Even when Raymond comes back, I think he's at least earned a little bit maybe more ice time or more minutes down there in on what likely will be the fourth line when everyone's at full health again. And I mean, that also gives you options later, right? Injury, it's hockey. Injuries are going to happen. No hockey team has ever gone through 82 without any. So like there's gonna be some other forward is going to get hurt this year, and knowing, okay, obviously not going to be a world beater, but knowing that Appleton can, have the ability to step up and fill that role is big. And yeah, obviously he was a difference literally in this game.
Quite literally. Scotty, let's head to a quick break. When we return, we'll talk about just some general thoughts on the game as a whole, and then talk about other players who stood out to us. So stay tuned to segment 2 of Locked On Red Wings. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right, pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. You're going to love using FanDuel because it gives you so many ways to play. You can build parlays, try player props, and even follow the live lines during the game. It makes watching football even more exciting when you've got a little something riding on the action. Whether you're a casual fan or love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Scotty, I do just briefly want to talk about the game as a whole before we get into the notable performers, because I don't think this was a perfect game for Detroit, but I also think it was a much better effort than their game against Toronto.
For sure.
And given their opponent, even with the injuries, right, this is still a very deep Florida Panthers team with very good players on it. I'm very impressed with the response from after their very poor victory, right? Ugly game, good win, as we were saying, against the Toronto Maple Leafs. The effort was a lot better in this game. There was a lot of stretches for both teams of sustained offensive zone pressure. I thought the areas that the Red Wings were doing a really nice job in is clogging the slot, making sure that when the Florida Panthers got to the slot with the puck, there was one or two guys on his stick, making sure if he got a shot, it was deflected or blocked, and that passes weren't clean. I think they did a fantastic job at that defensively. Where in the defensive zone they weren't very good is getting that puck to the boards and the half wall for the chip out. Red Wings love a clean breakout. That's the system they're running. Clean breakout off the half wall. And the Florida Panthers have a very aggressive blue line that pinches a lot. And so the Red Wings kept turning the puck over on the blue line or along the boards constantly. So that was forcing them to then clog the slot and, deflect the shots and block the shots and then get it back to the boards and turn it over. So it was both, it was weirdly both at the same time, Scotty, a very poor defensive performance from that standpoint, but a very good in the fact that in the slot, they were pretty locked down. Just they got to work better at breaking the puck out, especially when you're playing a team like Florida that knows how to counter that.
For sure. And that was a big problem early. I think they made some adjustments and it got a little bit better as the game went on. But the first period especially, but even most of the second period, I would say that was a big issue. It seemed to be, I don't want to say on their heels, because it wasn't like the ice was tilted or whatnot. Like they were pretty even in shots for a majority of the game. It was just an instance where there were so many opportunities where even if you're not, starting a break or you're getting an offensive opportunity out of it or whatever, just to simply clear the freaking puck anything else is it's the bare minimum, but it is important. And so I completely agree with you. That was it's a good observation and something worth talking about. But I do think, to their credit, that is something that got a little bit better as the game went along too.
100%. I do think there's a bit of risk reward here for the Florida Panthers, right? Because while in a lot of instances it kept plays alive in the offensive zone and helped maintain pressure, when it didn't work, we saw a lot of odd man rushes for the Detroit Red Wings. Yeah. I mean, just looking it down here, we had a Mason Appleton mini breakaway. We had a Appleton to Larkin 2-on-1 chance. We had a DeBrincat to Larkin 2-on-1 chance. We had a MBN to Finney chance, and then a Finney to Larkin, and then a MBN to Larkin. So, you had so many multiple opportunities to put the lead or extend the lead in this game off of chances because your breakout was successful and you got around the aggressive forecheck of the Florida Panthers. So it's a risk-reward system. If they can clean up the turnovers, they would have done. It was just an even game back and forth. Because you look at the chances here, Scotty, expected goals for at 5-on-5, your favorite statistic, 51% for the Florida Panthers and 49% for the Detroit Red Wings. And that's how it felt watching. It felt maybe a slight edge to Florida, but it was a close game to the finish line.
Yeah, I don't think there was a team that can, like, after the game say, oh, like, we deserved, quote unquote, to win that way more. I think it was very even. And I think to your point about that aggressive style of play, Florida also has in the back of their minds, and certainly has for the last 3 seasons at least, of like, okay, we can allow some breaks because we have Sergei Bobrovsky, and like they don't. And that's not something that you obviously want to like consistently put your goaltender in that position, but it doesn't hurt, right? Like being able to do that and be like, okay, well, even if they get a break, like everything you just mentioned there, Bob stopped a lot of those, man. And if not all, I mean, the goals that they did score, obviously the power play was like set up in the zone and then 2 empty netters. Like there
were no gimmies for Detroit.
So
there were no gimmies.
Going to say something.
I did. There were no gimmies for Detroit.
Sure.
Like they earned all their goals.
For sure. 100%. And I think that's the not counter, but that's kind of part of the strategy, I guess I'll say, with Florida. It's like, okay, we can play this style, and it wins them a heck of a lot of hockey games. And certainly there were, a bounce or two away from this being a different story in this one. So I'm just so, this was such a good win, man. And like, it feels so different. And I don't want to get ahead of myself. We're, 4 games into the season or whatever. But it's, the last 2 years, even when the Wings were winning, we would come on here and be like, wow, they kind of got outplayed, but like they won, or like, oh, they got, bailed out by like whatever, but they won. And then the collapse happened. And we're 4 games in. We'll see if they can continue playing this way. But these wins feel like if they play the same way they have for at least 3 of these 4 games, obviously the second game against Toronto excluded from that. Well, I guess maybe the first game wasn't really a beauty either. But you get my point. Like in the wins, it just feels like if they can replicate that over a full season, it feels a lot more sustainable and a lot more trustworthy over a long period of time. But again, we're 4 games in. We have a loss and an ugly win, and then obviously the 2 really good wins. So
yeah, but on the other side of that, with the knowledge of how tough the first 5 games are, to already have 3 wins in the bank, 3 regulation wins, all against division opponents.
It's a huge deal. It's a huge deal.
Because now you finish off this homestand against Edmonton, who went to back-to-back Stanley Cup Finals. So this is already a great result to a tough start to the season, a difficult start to the season. Scotty, let's talk about one player real quick before we go to our second break. I do want to give mad props to Ben Sherratt in this hockey game. Ben Sherratt played the best hockey game I think I've seen him play in at least a calendar year. He was, and the broadcast was rightfully giving him his flowers. He had a great game. He was physical in front of the net. And one of my biggest gripes with Ben Sherratt is he has all that size. He doesn't use it in front. He was battling net front all night long. He blocked, I think, 5 shots himself in this hockey game. If I'm looking correctly, yeah, he blocked 5 shots in this hockey game, as did Simon Edvinsson. He was just, I felt he was in the right spot at the right time. He did a nice job at one point breaking up what looked like it was going to be a 2-on-1 by just intercepting the pass and deflecting it with his stick with a poke check. He was locked in this hockey game. I don't know how to say it other than that. He was in the right spots when he needed to be. He was blocking shots. Yeah, you could say. I don't know if you should. But Scotty Sherratt had and Sider did too. Don't want to say anything away from that. They both had a great game. It was a great pair. But it's just, you almost expect it out of Sider. It's more surprising when it's Sherratt. And I guess that sounds so backhanded putting it that way. But like it makes me so happy that Ben Sherratt had a good game, because you need him to be able to play at that level when he's playing in such difficult deployments, and he did in this one.
For sure. Any reassurance is welcomed,
Right.
Anytime we can watch, be like, oh, like this, maybe can work, and no one wants this to be the top pair for the next like 4 or 5 years, but if they can make it work for one more, can you give me one more? Like
Right.
that's really all we're asking for here. So
Yeah, he led the team in penalty kill minutes in this one at 206. I think
yeah, it's
Edmondson blocked a
crazy.
shot, was stung, and so Ed Sherratt had to get out there quicker than he wanted to.
Hmm.
So it was a good game from Ben Sherratt. Moritz Seider as well. That entire pair played well, but Ben Sherratt deserves his kudos for having a really good game. Scotty, let's head to a quick break. When we return, we'll do more notable performers. We're going to talk about the rookies, and then of course we'll briefly discuss the update to Lucas Raymond's status. Stay tuned to segment 3 of Locked On Red Wings. Hockey season is officially here, and nothing beats being in the arena for those opening games. But let's be real, getting tickets can be a total headache. Between waiting in queues, surprise fees, and prices that jump right before checkout, it's easy to get frustrated when all you want to do is cheer for your team. That's where Game Time comes in, the app that gives fans the advantage. It's your ultimate life hack for scoring amazing NHL tickets fast, easy, and stress-free. Scotty, you and the people have heard me talk about how I got my tickets to the Stadium Series through Game Time. Then I got my Linkin Park concert tickets through Game Time. I also get my Tigers tickets back when the season was going on for them through Game Time. Well, I've made another purchase through this website. I am going to the Sergei Fedorov retirement night, and I got my tickets through Game Time because of all the features we always talk about. The all-in pricing tool where you can see the price of the tickets when you go to, but before you get to checkout, without any hidden fees, is phenomenal. It shows you the best deals in each respective section, so you know you're getting a good deal up front. It shows you those top 1% deals as well. Game Time, honest to goodness, is the best way to buy tickets for any event you're going to. Take the guesswork out of buying NHL tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKDOWNNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go.
That was good spelling, man.
Thank you. They did it for me. So
You still
I mean,
almost screwed it up. That's crazy.
did I?
No.
Which one of these kids you want to talk about first, Scotty? Moving on.
I think ASP, just because I think he probably had the most noteworthy performance out of them. ASP was the quarterback on power play 2 in this game. We've talked about the penalty kill minutes he's been getting this year. The responsibility is not, they're not easing him into this. They are, metaphorically throwing him kind of into the fire here. So yeah, like I don't think he looks overwhelmed. Like again, there's still plenty of room to grow, obviously, but I like the fact that they are putting him in a lot of situations. He's gonna have his hiccups. It's gonna be rocky sometimes. It's gonna be beautiful sometimes. I like the fact that as a rookie, literally 4 games into the season, he's already playing in literally every scenario that you can muster up. I appreciate that, and I think that helps a player, reach his ultimate ceiling. So.
Yeah, I mean, he had a couple of opportunities from the blue line that almost resulted in goals. He had one shot that got deflected. JT Comfer, no goalie in net.
Yeah.
Bobrovsky's off to the side. Comfer's right there. The puck's in the slot, but he has 2 defenders draped over him, so he's not able to get a stick on it. He did have a couple turnovers, too. That's something. It wasn't just him in this hockey game. A lot of people have. It's just magnified because we're paying so much attention to the rookies. But as somebody who is going to have to beat a stigma of not being defensively great going into the start of his career, those turnovers in the defensive end have to get fewer.
And that's a few, like that's not just
Right.
like, oh, this game, like we're only 4 games in and he's had a handful of those already. So I think it's worth pointing out.
Right. But also at the same time, I don't think he is so far, he's giving the puck away far more than his contemporaries. Like he's
Sure,
not,
yeah.
I think like you said, he's handling his workload just
Yeah.
fine.
Mhm.
These growing pains are going to happen, and you can really see his brain thinking. Like he'll have to learn when and where at the NHL level because he can't get away with some of these moves at the NHL level that he could over in Sweden. But at the same time, he'll show you those flashes, and you go, oh, yeah, this kid's something special. Both he and MBN are going to get their first points here right around the corner. The third line as a whole, I thought, moving on to MBN here, third line had a rough game. It was the worst game I've seen them have as a unit. Andrew Kopp in particular, I thought looked pretty poor in this game. He had the puck fed to him with an empty net in front of him, backdoor, and he shot it off the side of the net. And then the power play, he also whiffed on a pass. And, of course, he had his pocket picked in the defensive zone, talking about turnovers, a few times as well. As a unit, they just were not a very, very effective line in this hockey game, and you can look at all the analytics there at the bottom of the chart for every single one. MBN individually, though, did have a couple of really nice plays. He made a diving play to Emmett Finney to set Finney up for what almost was his first career goal, and then he and Finney combined behind the net to then feed Dylan Larkin for an opportunity just moments later. Emmett Finney, again, was in this hockey game I just noted, had an opportunity to feed Larkin and almost had a goal of his own. I think what's interesting is I feel like Finney has shown the fewest flashes between MBN and ASP, but I think he has shown the least amount of downside. Not downside is not the right word, but you know what I'm going for. He's made the fewest mistakes. Maybe that's just the way I'm viewing the game. I haven't noticed them. People can tell me I'm wrong. People tell me I'm wrong all the time. But I feel like Emmett Finney's been like the most consistent piece of these three rookies. But MBN and ASP have shown flashes of so much higher.
Yeah, and I think part of that is also, line mates and
very
whatnot,
true,
right? Like Finney's shortcomings, if you will, probably get covered up a little bit by who he's playing with. But at the same time, he's also getting a lot of minutes because of who he's playing with. So I think that kind of thing goes both ways. I don't disagree with you. I also think Finney's style of play is just very hard-nosed, high motor, right?
I don't know who his style of play wouldn't mesh well with.
Right. Like he just feels like a guy that maybe, I agree with you. I don't think his ceiling probably is as high as either of those guys, but those are two guys that this organization is hanging a lot on and believes that they have, quite high ceilings. So I don't think that's necessarily a knock. I don't disagree, but that's not a bad thing. Like it's similar, not in the sense of like production or style of play. Just this conversation feels much like the conversations we used to have with Bert back in the day, where it's like, okay, well, he can like play on any line, really. You know what I mean? Like his style of play. Skater, though. Well, again, I'm not comparing.
Bertuzzi's one of the worst skaters I've ever seen.
I literally said I'm not comparing their style of play 30 seconds ago. Thank you, Brian. But
you're welcome.
I feel like, that was something we said with Bert all the time, was just like, oh, he can kind of play with anybody, like that meshes with anybody. That's just kind of regurgitated here. That's all.
Yes. Inverse of, and just as a footnote, right? Like, I don't want it to come across like we're being overly critical on the youth. Like, we're breaking down their game because we're paying attention to them every single game. I think that they've been just fine.
It's not
in the first 4
I don't
games.
even think it is. I think
they look overall good.
Yeah, I think they've been great.
Right.
Like obviously we're gonna poke holes in what needs to improve, but they're 4 games in and they're holding their own. And honestly, holding their own almost probably doesn't do it justice. That's like, oh, they're hanging on for dear life. Like they're excelling. Like I think they're actively contributing, positively to these games for sure.
And more often than not, when things go wrong, it's not because of them.
Right.
In fact, I have yet to see a moment where they have actively been bitten the ass because of a play that these 3 kids.
Yeah. I mean, really, it's just the ASP, own zone turnovers that we've talked about. But even those, like, they haven't cost us games yet.
Right. They haven't even cost us goals, if I'm remembering correctly. Like, they've been bailed out. So they've been very good. They've been kind of what we expected to a degree, at sometimes even better than that. I mean, we didn't expect MBN and ASP to even be on this roster, nor Emmett Finney, a month ago. So they're exceeding expectations in that regard already. But just, again, we're watching them so closely that, of course, we have so many things to say about them. I don't want people to get the impression that we don't think they're doing well, because they're doing incredibly well. The final thing, Scotty, about this game I wanted to talk about, I thought the inverse of the third line playing poorly. I thought this was the first time that the fourth line actually played pretty dang well. Obviously, the fewest minutes at 5-on-5, but they led the team in Corsi and expected goals.
Well,
James Van Riemsdyk,
yeah.
98% expected goals for
That's
percentage.
what I was going to say, man.
And faced only 2 shot attempts against when he was on the ice.
JVR is just so clearly better than fourth line talent, I think is really what we're learning. Which is great. I really, all this is telling me is that he's going to get more minutes and more opportunities as, his stamina builds back up to where they want him to be at.
Yeah. I thought in the moments the Red Wings maintained offensive zone pressure, there was at least twice where I'm like, it's the fourth line maintaining offensive zone pressure. What is happening? So JVR is a big part of that, but I do think Michael Rasmussen and Elmer Soderblom probably had their best game so far in this abbreviated season. But we're running out of time, so we got to move beyond that. Cam Talbot played really well. He let up a softie, which he's going to want back, but he went toe-to-toe with Sergei Bobrovsky, and that's the third straight game he's played pretty dang well in.
The Wings are 3-1. They have won every game that he's started, and Gibson literally got pulled mid-game. Talbot has played in all 4. So,
that's right.
Yeah, man, he's been fantastic, and we can talk about it a little bit more tomorrow. We'll save it for an off day, but very happy that this is happening. Happy for Cam Talbot. Hopefully, they just keep riding it until it stops.
Yes, and then Scotty, that brings us to our final thing on the docket: the update on Lucas Raymond. He is day-to-day. And it is an upper body injury. So the Red Wings dodge the worst of the worst. Hopefully he gets back in the lineup in the next few games.
Full contact in practice,
He didn't take part in line rushes, but yeah, he does.
Yeah,
he was
I just mean he wasn't wearing a
non-contact
non-contact jersey is all I meant there. So yeah, we'll take it.
Yeah, so should be back in a few games, I'm hoping. Day-to-day usually means only nursing a little bit of a soreness.
Well,
is what
speaking
I'm
of
hoping
Bert, we also remember the
don't put that in the world. Don't even finish that sentence. You're not putting that in the world right now, Scotty.
You remember that?
Were you the host? We talk about it every other week on this podcast.
Okay, I couldn't remember if you were host or if that was Nolan's last year, but
I think it was Nolan's last year. But we talk about it like every other week on these shows.
Okay,
talk about the infamous Bertuzzi day-to-day for the entire season
that lasted 4 months. Yeah,
right, until it wasn't day-to-day any longer, and he was out.
Just so absurd.
Not putting that into the atmosphere. Scotty, any final thoughts?
We ball, baby.
We do ball. We'll be back with a new episode tomorrow previewing the game against the Edmonton Oilers. Stay tuned for that. Same time, same place. It's your team every day.